So we'll move on to the consumption area. This is another important thing that you may see a lot of things that you wanted to learn here. In consumption, I think we have seen this diagram again. We're going to take a look at it again. So we have done the data ingestion, modeling, or view generations and harmonizations here, and then finally we build an analytic model. And then this pink one or purple one, oh sure, I think pink one, and then you expose the data to external reporting tools. So that's going to be those external reporting tools or SAC and Power BI in general cases. This is going to be the same, even whatever so far we learned may be applicable in BDC and may not be applicable in BDC in depending on the cases. But this part is the consumption part is no change. Whether you are using graphical views or harmonization at all, or even not to use it and then use the SAP data products that are going to come. We talk about those ones later. It doesn't matter, but this part will not be changed. Data exposing to analytic tools from analytic models is not going to change. Irrespective whether you're using BDC data products or custom data products or custom integrations that we have seen so far. Whatever the integrations that we have seen are custom integrations directly to the data sphere, not through the BDC data lake. The data lake, when the BDC data lake comes, then you will have another type of integration from SAP S/4HANA PCE at this time. That's the only system. And that will take a little different path, not very different, but little bit different. But at this time, from analytic models, you are exposing the data is not going to change, right? So that's what my point here is. I'm saying data consumption part will not be changed even in the BDC area as well. But these are all things may change, like may change. I'm not saying they may change, but they are separate use cases, and your BDC data lake use case is different. But both use cases, the consumption part is same, and then it wouldn't change. So it's very important to understand the consumption, whether you're doing a custom integration that what we have seen so far, or even BDC standard data product based integrations instead of these custom integrations. Doesn't matter. We'll have to follow the consumption in a same way. So with that note, so we'll have to really understand more on the consumption little detail. So here are simple metrics from SAP help documentation that you can see data can be exposed as analytic models. Prospectus is something Business Builder is all about. I'm not really going to just going to take 10 minutes later for Business Builder, but really Prospectus is something that you build from data builder objects by users that they can simply drag and drop some navigations and then don't have to understand anything, and you don't have any technical variables, exits, processing types, nothing. You don't have anything in the prospectus of Business Builder. So really speaking, I don't think it's really going to be having any of help for you to do a model in Business Builder. Instead, rather you choose analytic model. Okay, so that's being said. Consumption model and prospectus are simple, very graphical based user interfaces. Of course, even analytic model is also graphical, but you have more functionalities enable to call the scripted table functions and scripted views and processing with customer exits and etc. So though it is graphical, still you can call the scripting areas and etc. But this is not going to fly, or this is not going to get you any of those features. So, but we will have a topic discussion on this consumption model prospectus in the Business Builder, but no value. My understanding is this is going to be removed very soon. So that now we focus on consuming analytic models in this SAC and Power BI. That's the part. In the consumption area, not only models, but also views. You can consume views as well. Let's take a look at it. So what we're going to do, analytic model is the number one preference, choice. And we have live connection created from SAC to analytic model. So you don't have to create any model or even reference model in SAC. It takes the model virtually and then data is accessed directly in SAC. And you've got a Microsoft Excel. We think we install SAC add-in for Microsoft Excel. If not, I'm going to install again and go through the installation process. Pretty simple. Uh, live for the live, just checking. Yeah, we do have Analytics Cloud add-in install, and then we can connect to the Analytics Cloud add-in install. And other tools like Power BI is one of the other tools, and especially OData service. So with that OData service consumption, you could take any reporting tool like Tableau, it doesn't matter, or even any UI that can read the OData. That's what client means. Client is more, let's say UI5, SAP UI5, Fiori app. If you wanted to do, you can simply take the analytic model and then use the OData service and build a UI5 Fiori app. Sorry, UI5 app and publish in or deploy it in Fiori. It's pretty simple. See, any UI application, could it be UI5 or TypeScript, JavaScript, any of the client applications require an API or service API from the backend service. In this case, we do have OData service API generated out of analytic model. Remember, I was showing you how to generate OData service API for each object. That's what it. So Datasphere has a service API, an export service API, similar to if you're familiar with SAC service API, then you can understand very easily. But every application, every cloud application, could it be Salesforce, Workday, success factors, any cloud applications that you choose, any in the world, the way they provide to consume or access the data from those applications through APIs. Whether you're using OData Service API, which is the SAP standard or recommended protocol, that's why all SAP cloud applications provide APIs as OData Service APIs, or non-OData service or generic HTTP APIs or RESTful other service APIs and even SOAP-based APIs. There could be multiple number of types of APIs that you have in the world. But SAP way is to use the OData service API. Is one of them. So you take success factors or Salesforce, any of the cloud applications of SAP in the entire business hub, accelerator hub, though, that is a place where you go into and find the APIs. So business accelerator hub, if you haven't used in the past, when you are really going in a bigger roles, that's the place that you really have to talk about or look at. Not only for APIs, but also for CDS views, everything. If you're working in a RISE project, without going into Business Accelerator Hub, it is really difficult. I mean, there is another duplicated information for your apps and everything in another places also, but this is the one place where you can get everything. For example, if you're working in a S4HANA new project, then if you wanted to know what are the CDS views that are available for you, so this is a place you can see all the CDS views in Business Accelerator Hub. You don't get it in Fiori Apps Library or anywhere else, or you may have to run some Fiori apps to view browser and then look, but doesn't provide any information though. This is the place you can apply filters. For example, if you wanted to look at the purchase order line items, and then also apply the filter saying that show filters and say serious views with the category consumption capabilities data source which is enabled for data extraction. Let me take it out, and then you can also have some extensibility, but we wanted to see what is the new extractors that are equivalent for 2LS02 item. Simple question that I can ask. And this is the place you just come and type purchase order and then put the data source for data extraction. That's it, and apply it. So you can see these are the, yeah, this is exactly the one. The PO supplier confirm is one thing. DEX is for this is consumption, but data extraction for purchase orders. So go and take a look at this one. Most likely, this is going to get you what you require. That is equivalent to your purchase order line item extractor before, which is 2LIS02 item. So all the information related to your data products in the next area, which is going to come available to you here. So currently there are only 134 data products, which is only related to working capital dashboard, but there are more going to come anyway. And if you wanted to see the APIs for integrations, you got the place. This is the place you can integration flow. All the integration flows. You can see all the integration flows that are part of integration suite. You can find it here. Build. This is SAP build code. Build process automation, task automations, and workflow automations. You can find a number of build related areas. For analytics, yeah, so you got all the analytic apps as well in in one place. Not so I'm not sure what is transformation. I never used the transformation. I think this is more industry specific business transformation offerings and etc. But other than these things, you have every API. Let's say you wanted to see all the APIs for especially SAC and come on Datasphere APIs. Let's say Business Accelerator Hub SAC API. REST API Business Accelerator Hub. So you can see there is a OData v4. You can see for OData data import service, there is one API, and there must be data monitoring export service. There is one for export service as well. So I'm not sure why do I miss? So these APIs are not OData service. These are REST APIs. I'm looking for OData service APIs. So you can see data export service is the one that is most commonly used to get the data out of SAC for all the integrations. If you haven't used in SAC, you must use it. I wouldn't call must use it, but if you haven't got a scenario, that's fine. But really, the future of integrations with SAC is going to be data export service API. That is OData based, and REST API, they couldn't do these import service APIs with OData. That's why they have SAP has given with REST APIs. So far, we haven't created any REST API. We're going to create a REST API for data integration. We have seen OData service API during the data integrations before, right? Remember? I said we will do the REST-based HTTPS API using application runtime task in the task chain. That's going to be totally different in the integrations we will welcome. Don't get distracted from this one. But yeah, you always have two types of APIs, OData Service API and REST API. It's just a protocol, the way that you consume, they prepare and they give it. But most of the APIs are OData APIs in SAP world. So if you and you can find all the information here. For example, export service. If you look at the export service, you would have definitely, yeah, I have used a lot of OData service API of SAC. To consume the data. So you get API reference model, and then try it out. You can actually run, and then see what is going to be the output for each. You can, of course, you can do it in Postman or any other places also, but you have what parameters need to pass. What are the if you wanted to consume this API in type JavaScript or SAP, that's what I was telling you. This is a no data service API, and you got endpoints here. And then you wanted to read these endpoints and display the data in SAP UI 5 using components, MVC architecture, not MVC, that's what it's model control, MC, I think MVC, model view controller architecture of UI5 design. If you're a Fury UI5 developer, you can easily relate this one. You need an OData service in the backend that can easily load the OData service. SAP UI5 is built in a way to read the OData service just like that, very simply. And then your components can get really simple and consume it in Fury, very simple. So that's why most of your backend APIs are OData service APIs for SAP recommendation. So anyway, we are not really doing any UI5 app or a BAP development, anything to consume these APIs. Simply, we are going to consume these API endpoints for data integration and data consumption reporting tools. Not that we are going to create any of the client tool explicitly by using our own code. Instead, we are using tools like SAC and Power BI that are built with this JavaScript on the client side. Basically, that's what really, and they are specially designed and with subscription they came, and then they have inbuilt tabs and everything so that you can simply easily call the APIs and then do the data either with connectors. If there is no connector, use the OData directly and then get your reporting done. If you don't have a tool subscription, you don't have a payment subscription, then use UI5 free, and then build the tabs that are shown in Power BI or SAC on your own and an app. And then when you click on those objects, then backend anyway you're running these API endpoints depending on requirement you have. This is going to get you super complex because you are building your own, but instead our area is only analytics, right? So we have really dedicated, really already built in tools for us so that we don't have to use this API through the programming. Instead, we will use these APIs in a reporting tools. Even to simplify this, SAP and Power BI prepared connectors, integration points. That's when you don't even understand the API endpoints for you, and they packaged all these endpoints for OData service. For example, you were reading the analytics model from Datasphere in SAC. They have given a connector, an inbuilt connectors in SAC, so that you can leverage the connectivity from Datasphere to SAC without worrying about what is that API is doing with your eyes. I know this is too much theory, but I'm trying to say what really API and OData service is all doing in the backend. So with that, so I say multiple times that Business Accelerator Hub is the one place for everything. Not You may find this information in help page also, but this is the one place where you can really switch from API reference. See, this is the Swagger. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Swagger. So Swagger, you can actually try it out, this one, with all the parameters that you wanted to give, and then just try it out. It's going to and connect and give you the results directly. Select the environment. If you don't have an environment, we will set up an environment in our Postman and then connect and pass the header, body, and everything to get the results back, response back. And that's what you can expect from the tool itself. Tool also, that's really the one that is going to happen. See, I told you before about this one. If you don't want to understand from a developer perspective, all the time it is always been considered as a ABAPers area or somebody programmer area. Then it will be, you are restricting your capabilities only to the graphical view modeling, analytic modeling, all the time. But with new things evolving, it is really kind of, I see an important to come out of your graphical interfaces of what BW and native HANA all the time that you are doing in the past, and understand the APIs little bit at least to try it out, and then get into the API world as early as possible, because even in AI and everywhere, everything is AI. If you, I mean to say, understanding APIs, you have GPT tools and everything, etc. But you will have to get into the API world of things, so to get your a lot of complexities issues resolved. Okay, so that the background. So let's move on to the topic again. So OData is all about that. And then we're going to remove this one, right, from our case. And then views. So views are your graphical views and SQL views. So you can expose them when you switch on the check button. And then that is always going to be your OData set. Even for Analytics Cloud, you don't have a connector here for views to be shown in the Analytics Cloud. Even though it is an SAP tool, we don't have a connector. The SAP is suggesting to use the connector only for analytic through the analytic models, not through the views. And even SAP itself not having a connector for graphical views, then obviously what happens to other clients will have to really use OData or JDBC connectivity, direct JDBC connectivity, depending on the tool that you're going to use. So we will look at this one. Oh, sorry. Think, yeah. So we're going to look this one. We're going to look at this one, and we will be looking at this one as well, and also this one and this one. So we are covering 5 scenarios to start with, and then we also look at the back scenarios to get the data from SAC and into Datasphere. Okay. Uh, don't know, it's just to be clear, I will just stop sharing, and the easy way to clear for me, instead of going and clear from this one. Yeah, good. Okay, so now let's start with the first one, consumption using live connection. Any questions so far on theory? Okay, if not, then we go to the consumption in the system. Consumption using live connection. Live connection configured. Datasphere as, yeah, the roles and everything we really haven't talked about. Scope roles and data access controls, everything taken care already, and then has got the prerequisites done. User must be in both application. There was a, yeah, I don't know, just in time authentication is not really good. I don't really go on that. So user must be in both applications, Datasphere and Analytics Cloud. And then the user must have a role in Datasphere in order to um, get the data into SAC for consumption. So if the user Datasphere doesn't have a required role on that particular space, on that particular analytic model, then you will end up having issues in connecting to that model. So we are establishing the live connection. The connection setup is going to be, it's actually changed quite a bit from each training batch that I've seen. At least 2 to 3 times it changed. But let's take a look at the help documentation and follow what is currently there. So we're going to connect to the SAC tenant. So we do have SAC tenant. So far we haven't used. I'm going to access that from my Datasphere, from BTP. If it is gone, then we will have to set up the new tenant. I think it's recently created. I don't think it's gone. Instance and subscriptions. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, US 10. That's the data center, US Virginia, and then all good. I think I haven't used it. This is the first one. I'm not sure. We'll have to really bear with any access issues that we can expect from this one. So the first thing that we will be doing to set up is not embedded in the data. In the past, when DWC was introduced, there is a embedded SAC tenant that used to come in DataSphere along with DataSphere. That's how they came initially, and they detached in the past, and now even now, and then now they combine again. So now, right now, uh, it's not combining; it's a tenant mapping. That's what they call. So you can have both tenants mapped and then have the data persisted in the place where you choose for assist. So it's not a embedded tenant, but mapped tenant now. Previously, it's an embedded tenant, very beginning. Now it's a separated tenants, both. Now it's going to be or currently and even in near future also, it's more about tenant map tenant. So you can check that whether you are having embedded or not by going into this link. That's a prerequisite. Yeah. So you see in the yeah the bottom that always this I don't think 99% and this was on 2021 itself. They separated and then made it two tenants, right? So I don't think anybody still using the situation before. They already migrated to the new type. Okay, so I don't think this is really considered. So go and then add the SAC URL and the trusted origin of the datasphere. That's the most important thing. So what are we going to do? First configuration. This is the SAC URL that what we just got when I open it. Take that URL and add it as a trusted origin in the datasphere. Okay, now I have the trusted all the way up to this point. Copy it and go back to the datasphere homepage and then go to the system configuration. Mm, this is IP. Trying to remember where what was the trusted origins usually in the administration, I guess. That's not a problem. System administration. And that's it. Very simple. Very simple, Ash. Just the data source configuration, security, app integration. Yeah. In the app integration, so we're going to put the trusted origin. Add trusted origin. Just get this. Paste it. Save it. Just remove any spaces there. Yeah, I'm adjusting my layout a little bit just in case you're unable to see. All good. Save it. So this has been added. Though it says DSP, it's just this is I gave this as DSP SSC, but it's an SSC tenant. Has been updated. It may take few seconds or minute depending on the time. So the next thing is that new connection to SAC for DataSphere. Now we go to the connections in SAC and then provide the DSP tenant URL and port 443. Always your JDBC connectivity or the HTTP connectivity, sorry, is 443. So now I'm in SAC here in this page. I go to the connections. I'll say plus this time I'm going to look for Datasphere, connect Datasphere, and give it a DSP uh, SAC live. Say DSP SAC live. Simple host, drag, and then all the way up to this one is the host. Think HTTPS port 443. And authentication method is OAuth by default, and it's not allowing anything. So what is going on? Invalid name. Okay. Why it is so? It doesn't like it. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't like it. Maybe connection name. That's so it's direct live data connection is being established, and that's pretty much what you need to do. Simply host and port is what really. So what the next step is your home page. Now it's changing a lot better now. Many things changing in SAC. I may not be able to catch up, but what I wanted is simple things. I don't have to go into the models because I don't need a model to be created, so I can directly create a stories. Um, Story, just create it in this folder. I'm going to put a new story, which is going to be of type responsive. So go close it. And then the first thing that you're going to do is to do the existing model. Yeah, because I don't have to create any model. Just select other model and you see the connection appear here. So select it. Space. I think this one is right, remember, yeah. So, and then HANA Cloud.
So,
Financial, yeah.
if the model already exists, like the way that we create an analytical model, we don't have to create anything else, any other model in SAC.
No models in SAC. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And this is the one that's going to be, if you have input parameters, then yeah, we'll do that input parameters as well, and currency conversions and everything as well. So I'm not focusing on SAC based here, but just really giving you the consumption part. God, so good. I am really poor in the navigations, and then there you go. Yeah, that's coming. Come on. Okay, that's fine. I can actually add the more columns in the edit details. More. Yeah, this is actually all about tables. I'm just going to get to the change div. Okay, come on. It's all giving me trouble. I will change the canvas to details so that I get all the second window and available here, and then just click on it and then say add dimensions. Whatever we do there, country, we just go to the year. I think that's what we did initially. So we've got 4 years of data, and further we can do. So yeah, anyway, SSC, we will not really go and make these further things related to the chart and tables navigations to do analysis here. And then we will look at the SAC topics only to the extent how it is related to consumption area only, which means, let's say tomorrow, this is a plain simple analytic model that I consume. Tomorrow, if I add an input parameter, let's say to maybe in the next session or even now, then I will show you how to consume that input parameter. Let's say tomorrow we got variables with different processing types like customer exits. Then we understand how to consume that analytic model with variables with customer exits in the SAC. So our SAC learning is only restricted to consume different and show you how analytic model configurations affect in SAC to the extent that's it. Other than that, we really not go into the any of the SAC original SAC topics of formatting and story building and etc. So only looking at the feature shown cases only. So with that, it's a simple thing. Any questions? So no, I don't think any simple, right? Yeah, you can validate the connection. You can find the SAC live data connection all here in this SAP note. Going to
Shrikant, are you going to tell regarding Power BI also next, or
yeah,
okay?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Srikant,
unsupported, yeah.
I have a good question. Like when you created the view, analytic view in our data sphere, and then did you expose it to make it available in SAC, or it's automatically whatever the views are available in data sphere, once the connection is made uh, through SAC, all of them are available here or something like that?
Yeah, by default
By
analytic
default?
models, yeah.
Oh, okay, by
Yeah,
default.
yeah.
Okay.
So when we go to the views, then that's when we will have to enable it and understand the metadata of O data. So that's why the metrics is important. That when we see the metrics, whenever you see O data, and that's when we explicitly control the generation of O data service. If it is live connection here and Excel, there is no problem. Okay, so it's all there. Live connection automatically gets to the analytic models without doing any. It's automatic exposure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you will have anyway. You have this documentation on what you're going to do and how to configure and then limitations. Anyway, I will upload. So look at some of the limitations from this SAP Note 2832606. Yeah, some of the things related to just ask stories in classic experience, which is anyway not. I don't think still people using classic optimized. It all depends on SAC things. You can check those. Data. Some of the data types have some issues. Big int and binary and large binary. Planning. Planning data can now be stored in DataSphere with seamless planning. We have a dedicated session for this one. However, seamless still requires the input of data into the SAC model, and it is not based on DataSphere live connection. Of course, yeah, we cannot use live connection. That's what we will be looking. Smart features. Yeah, some of the things, whether you're using it before or not, but it's a good thing to look at what are the current limited unsupported features with SAP DataSphere live connections currently. Without that, yeah, then probably you end up having issue and then you don't know what is the problem. So look at this, especially analytics area. Blending is not supported. Version mapping is not supported. So yeah, probably this may be something that you wanted to see. Blending, most of the times the live models don't support blending. Datasphere is not an exception. Yeah, scheduling a publication on Datasphere data. This is also another important feature that you want it really as soon as possible, maybe at least to the earliest. If you cannot schedule a publication, you will not be able to broadcast this story to the users. So read this at least, so you understand what you can expect. Okay, so I put this note. Um, then the next thing that's in the um, metrics is SAC export analytics cloud add-in. So this is a very simple. If you would have installed SAC Excel add-in before, it's going to take few seconds for you. Just SAC add-in for Microsoft Excel. So you got this one from Microsoft App Source. I got it this similarly. You can get it now, and then it will install for you as an add-in on your Excel. That's pretty much, but it doesn't get your license though. This license, definitely you need an SAC license, and same process applicability as you do in SAC. I don't have to really say, but I'm just, as I said, I'm giving you the basics. So whatever the functionalities that you can do using Analytics Cloud Excel add-in, you can do it in for Datasphere context as well. So I already installed it. So I got to see here. So simply sign in. So it's going to prompt you for the URL. I think my URL is. So there's a challenge if your domain is not analyticscloud.sap, then you're going to get into a big problem. Not a big problem, at least a significant problem. So you go and trouble signing in. That's because in one of the projects that I worked, they don't have this domain. In SAP Analytics Cloud add-in for Microsoft, if your tenant dimension is analytics.cloud or HANA Cloud Services, must be manually configured by the Microsoft Office 365 administrator. This is going to take you to the Office 365 IT admin, and then they deploy it centrally. And so in order to work this nicely, your domain must be, I mean, the SAP given domain or the generated domain is, what is it? Standard domain, that scs.cloud.sap. Is that the same one that I have? Just getting the SAC domain. Oh, I have analytics.cloud.sap. Is it? Just giving it to the SAP analytics.clouds. Okay, tenants of other domains, for example, analytics.cloud, and must be manually configured by. So this is a little bit tricky. I'm not sure. I cannot say this is going to work because mine is SAP analytics.cloud. Looks the one that I got it here. Yeah, it is SAP. It's not SAP Analytics. It's analytics.cloud.sap, so which is also a standard domain. That should be okay. So the one that especially has challenges that I had before is this one. HANA Cloud Services cloud.sap and SAP Analytics Cloud must be manually configured. I don't think these two are having currently now. So I'm not worried about it. Let's go and connect it. Oh, this setup doesn't require an IT admin. So I can go to this one. As soon as you install, you get to see here, get the URL pasted, and then say go. It's going to prompt you for, this is actually identity access management. Let me try this one. Not the Datasphere or SAC. Oh, SAC. This is SAC. I think my password must be this one. So it's trying to connect to SAC. In case if I have any blocker or firewall issues from my local computer, it's not going to allow me to configure to the Analytics Cloud. Doesn't seem to be working. Let me try again. So this is, sometimes it took my authorization, but really didn't get me back. So let me figure it out, and then I will come back on the add-in installation of SAC. So basically, as soon as you log in, you will see it's connected, and then you will be able to access the Datasphere model that is available in the web version and Excel version as well. We have gone through this one in last batch. I think there is something that is stopping. I will come back to the this part. So basically, we are holding on this for tomorrow. So this part, it's pretty straightforward. We are just holding on to the tomorrow session and find out why it's blocking me in there from the connectivity. Okay. Or I can actually go to the different topic. So must be some configuration that I could have missed, but I don't think it's missed anything critical. Welcome. We first thing in the morning, so we're going to look at that tomorrow. Oh, it must be that's a problem. Yeah, it's let me try to take this to the incognito browser. Sometimes cache can stop me from accessing it, but it doesn't look like cache. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be okay. Third-party cookies block, maybe. No. Okay, still blocked. Okay, let me figure it out on my own, and then it's stopping me to connect there. Okay. Okay, that's good. I will come back to that. Even if we have time, don't think we have time, but we thought of going to OData service. Let me just see that how much time we have for OData service API connectivity. Yeah, that's going to be the OData API. Okay, this is going to be a really little bit complex task to set up the OData API with OR, the client, and access everything. Basically, what we are doing now is this. Oh, not sure which one I lost it. Yeah, got it. So what we are doing from this diagram? So we did this one. Okay. So we are going to do this one, views to the OData API service connectivity, and then consume these views in the model, creating a model, and then use it as create a story on top of it for models. And then in the third case, we use data from a model into Datasphere tables using cloud data integration connectivity. This is the connector available in the integration area. So we're going to look at that. And then the fourth one is what tenant link seamless integration is what we look at in the context of SAC. From the Power BI context, we will just do analytic model and as well as views to objects in the Power BI context. Same way but in both cases, it is going to be, I think there is a connector available for Power BI, but that is actually provided by SAP. So we will look at the connector and then how to install those connectors. Yeah, so those are the topics for tomorrow. So tomorrow we may not be able to complete all these topics. So we may end up having at least half of the topics for SAC to Datasphere or data service consumption. And then the rest half we will be completing on the Saturday session. Yeah, it at least takes 4 to 5 hours of time to do the consumption topic covered. So we'll just start with OData connectivity today, the basics. Not that we're going to set up today, but we will understand the basics of OData API connectivity. Okay, so the most important thing or prerequisite for you is to understand the DataSphere export service API. It's not that it is mandatory, but at least if you understand the endpoints of DataSphere API, then you can play with that for any use case. So what we're going to do, we will use Postman to read the DataSphere API with different endpoints. So I have already Postman set up from the previous batches. Anyway, we're not going to do it in the system today. I'm just giving you a heads up what you can expect in tomorrow's session. So I have prepared several workspaces. This is DataSphere and this is export. Okay. Environments collection. So collections, this collection is empty, but we have some collections. So basically, every batch we have some. I think this is from the new batch, so I'm getting it from. So here, if you look at the spaces, you wanted to getting the spaces. This is the base URL, and then DWC catalog spaces. This, if you run this URL or endpoint, you're going to get the result back saying that how many spaces are in the system. That's the endpoint that catalog underscore / spaces is doing. This is all base URL. This wouldn't change. This is the tenant URL of DataSphere, which was passed in the previous one. We will get a new one here, of course. Similarly, you have assets in the space, analytic model view data, and relational data, which are graphical views and etc. Every endpoint that you see in the end will represent and get the data differently. This is what we have seen in the OData Service API basics of Northwind. We have seen that, right? In the Swagger documentation, every endpoint will get you some, let's say you got transaction data and then fact and dimension. Depending on the endpoint that you give, the data results are different. Basically, in a programmable way, though, those endpoints are given to the tabs as the source of information. So that if you click on that tab on the customer backend, the endpoint with customers as a endpoint API will be triggered and then get you the results. That's what pretty much happening in the UI5 app or UI apps. Same way for reporting tools, you are passing a specific API endpoint so that they will get the required data from that endpoint, what SAP decided to provide for that API endpoint. So it's very important to read the SAP API documentation and how they intend the developers and external people to consume the SAP application, because SAP DataSphere is a proprietary application and they don't want to give access to this application just like that. They have specific APIs predefined and you just need to get the APIs endpoints used and get the information out of DataSphere. That's for anybody who is going to access DataSphere outside or even inside where there is no SAP built connector available. Pretty clear, right? So whether you need to understand the different APIs of DataSphere, endpoints of DataSphere APIs, it's all up to you. As long as you have a connector, you don't have any problem. If you don't have a connector and then you have to expose them in a UI tool or any of the external tools where there is no way that you can integrate, then you must understand what is the endpoint, what is that each endpoint is doing and what method and what parameters, header, authorization, etc. And then accordingly, you give them in integration suite. You have to give these parameters. If you are calling an API, you have to give a authorization parameter, which is going to be OAuth most likely, and you got to pass the header parameters and then body parameters as well, and your response will be coming in the according to the parameters that you pass it in these three areas. Right? Any doubts in this one? So what we're, whether you, how much you're going to understand the passing these parameters, all is up to you. All depending on whether you're going to work on API integration to consumption tools and etc., or even external tools. So we will run some basic endpoints, some of the endpoints, and then get the response here. And then, okay, conclude that, okay, we get the response correctly. Then now I can use this API endpoint and then give it in the SAC or give it in the Power BI or somebody like a UI5 app where there is no tool or connector available. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. But SAP trying to do less complicated things for you by saying covering this API endpoints as in the ways of graphical objects. So you don't have to really worry about a lot about metadata of OData services. But a definitely good thing for you. So we prepare an authentication. The most important thing in doing so is to prepare the authorization. So OAuth authentication. So we will have to generate an OAuth client ID in the Datasphere so that other people can get the access to the Datasphere system. So we will set up an OAuth authentication in Datasphere tomorrow, and then we get the credentials of that authentication and pass it in Postman, and then call the APIs that SAP has given so. And every time you call the API with the authentication that you have got from Datasphere system, then you get the different results. Even you can create users using calling this API. You can create spaces. You can create n number of things using these APIs that you are unable to do it from graphical things. Like for example, graphical means this one. So you are creating a user like go security user. So you can create a user by choosing plus. Really speaking, you can do everything that what you do using API call. Okay, if I call create user API, this is in the backend what happens. Whatever things happening when you click on this one, it's going to do the same thing in the backend when you run the API. And then you provide the API parameters of the username and ID and password and email ID. Those passwords will be those parameters will be passed, and then a user will be created and then stored in the database. And that's what you can going to see it here as well. Whether you're looking at graphical or running the show with APIs is different. Not different, it's same. But mostly you will be working in graphical because that's where you are comfortable. But some of the actions that you may not be able to work in graphical, and then you definitely need APIs to come in, and then automations and everything will have to happen through the command line prompt or in the backend tooling, which is through the API services. So to summarize this, to the most part, you will be okay with the graphical interface, but for some areas where your integrations require not the connector based or graphical user based, then you will have to really access API based integrations through the API access. So we will do that API based access tomorrow. Use from the analytic model as well as graphical views, both for these two areas. And we will use the OData service API same even for external tools like Power BI as well, if possible, tomorrow's session itself. Seamless planning, we will not be able to do tomorrow, but we will be talking is part of XP&A. So I'll have to a little bit give XP&A. Not sure whether you heard about XP&A. This is very important from the planning context. There is a more relevance for Datasphere to have XP&A use cases scenarios done, because in future, it's not the financial planning that you so far viewed in, oh, financial statements. If you're really doing only financial statement planning, you're limited at the very basic level of planning, or you don't even touch the complexity in the planning. And I've seen 90% of the people so far who worked in planning are only basic planning without XP&A. XP&A is the next level planning, taking you to the next level planning, where it is so difficult to manage XP&A I felt so difficult. No, not from the technology at least only context, but also from the functionality also, because Expandia involves other planning areas to be combined, like operational planning from IBP, HR planning from success factors, and etc., and then integrate with financial planning. All these three things together, implementing a solution that works very good for short-term planning and operational planning and strategy planning together is like a kind of a super complicated planning thing in the, and that for that your data sphere is going to help you a lot as well. So we will talk about those things in terms of Expandia use cases. Okay, so we got at least 5 hours of topics that we're going to talk in SAC and DataSphere context. Okay, any questions before we end?
Srikanth, going back to the earlier one, you connected DataSphere to the SAC, and then is the live connection.
Yeah.
So since we are talking about this planning now, so in case of planning, we don't require the live connection data. Sometimes we might pull it once in a month, that kind of scenario, like an acquired connection, like SAC regularly right now we have the connections, right? Live connections and acquired connections. So we may not need the live connections. So how do we do that um, for the SAC planning?
Yeah, planning, you wanted to store the data, right? That's when
Yes, yeah. It should
yeah,
be stored in the SAC cube, basically.
yeah, SEC live, then the purpose of live is not relevant here, right? Live is not storing the data. But the one seamless planning what we're going to talk about is not that you still create a model. I'm saying you create a model,
Mm.
and that model will be created in SAC, but the data for that model will be saved in DataSphere. So
Oh,
yeah, so that's not live. You can call it as live, but it's actually model. It's a model in SAC, but data is not in the SAC. It's in DataSphere. So what is the right way to tell? Is it a live model or acquired model, or you decide? But it's like its data is not in SAC. That's what I'm saying.
oh, there's okay. It's going to store in DataSphere, and
Mm.
then, but it will be on runtime pulled into the model.
No,
Uh,
it's not
no.
run. Yeah, when you run a story or planning activity, it will be reading the data from DataSphere tables.
But when sometimes we have the input forms and all, and we'll send that data from the front end, and where it gets stored, whether it is in the SAC model or is it in DataSphere.
See, model is in SAC. We will talk about the topic in detail, but the model is in SAC, but the
Okay,
data gets saved in the DataSphere table.
okay, we'll talk
Yeah.
that later. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? So what we have done today, we've just basically simply did the analytic view development and then created a simple analytic live model connection. Tomorrow we will talk more about connectivity of a OData service API and testing them in Power, Postman first, and the connected applications like SAC and Power BI after. Okay. Okay. That there are no questions. Then we are going to end this session today, and we'll start at this 8:30. In worst case, I 8:35. Just that I'm just getting back from something in the morning. So yeah, if I'm delayed for 5 minutes, just bear with me. Thank you.
Okay, second.
Bye. Bye.